some ways it's not, because you guys are like, we are at the end of semester and we are using it, yes? I've seen some headlines. Well, a few bits of announcements for you here today before we roll through. None of this should be super new, but just some reminders to put in your brains. I know there's a lot happening right now. April 7th, that's a Monday, all your makeup modules are due, all your mentor journals should be up to date. So make sure you're taking a look at that. Kate is handling all of our attendance, so if you have questions about that, certainly email the CLA email, but she can help work with you on that as well. Friday, April 11th, we have our next self-reflection, our final one. We'll be here. Please make every effort to attend. Would really love to have as many of you in the room as possible so that we can really know new content that day. It's more just going to be a retrospective, like, where have we been? Who was I when I came in here? What have I learned? How have I grown? What are my intentions as I leave? So I think it will be meaningful and fun. So I hope you come. And then Thursday, April 24th, we're going to be having our celebration of graduates. And you all, in this case, are graduates, right? This is not just if you're a senior and walking across the stage for GVSU, but if you are finishing with this program, you are considered a graduate of this program. You will move from fellow candidate to fellow as your title and join 700 other alumni of the CLA who are around the region and the world. So, pretty cool. So mark your calendars for that. You'll get more invitations and information about that. But that's on the downtown campus as well. And then finally, if you are still needing a service requirement for this semester, on April 8th, there's some drop-in hours available in the Kirchhoff Center. So maybe avail yourself of that coordinated event. Because I know sometimes the hardest part is just figuring out what you're going to do, right? Great. Well, today we are talking about conflict resolution and decision making. We got a nice start with this in many ways by Abby in your Leader Lens Leader Lab a couple weeks ago, which was lovely. A great way to start. If any of you were there, you know what I'm saying. But today we are going to be doing this for our first couple hours, and then I'm really excited. Scott Lewis, who is the president and CEO of the Greater Grand Rapids YMCA, will be joining us and really talking a lot about his own life experience as a leader for 38 years. So he's got a lot of great stories and is a dynamic person, so I think it's going to be really great. So to get us started today, to kind of prime the pump, would love for you to take a Post-it note and a pen. Get yourself ready. And I'd like you to answer this question on paper with a word or a phrase. No right or wrong. I want you to think knee-jerk reaction. Knee-jerk reaction. Everyone ready? Grab a pen. Watching your hands. Okay. Word or phrase. Conflict is. Knee-jerk reaction. Okay, share it with your table. You can just throw it up. And if you don't know you're not going to buy it, you should have the table. Okay. Make some friends at another table. So that's going to be kind of and you two are welcome to join on the table if that's fine. All right, so there's some examples. What are we hearing here? Shout it out. Raise your hand, shout it out. Conflict is. What's that? Fighting. What else? Icky. What else? Lisa. Hard. Anyone else? Uncomfortable. Messy. Yes. We have some nods of heads. All right. Next one. Post-it note number 2. Word or phrase. What feelings come up when you think about or hear the word conflict? What feelings come up when you think about or hear the word conflict? All right, you may share with your table. Compare notes. All right, what are some examples that came up at your table Sorry, say it again.
Anxiety.
Anxiety, yes, what else? Go ahead. Apprehension. Mm-hmm. Stressful. Yes.
Dread.
Pardon me?
Dread.
Dread. Yeah. Any observations of our answers so far? Any themes you're hearing?
Nobody likes it.
Nobody likes it. Do we generally feel positive or negative about conflict? Absolutely. You are not alone in that. Last question. Feel free to write more than a word or a phrase. Who would I be without conflict? Who would I be without conflict? And then feel free to discuss for a few moments. Much less developed as a person, absolutely. Yes?
I said more egotistical and ignorant because you wouldn't know when you're wrong ever.
Never knowing when you're wrong, so more egotistical and arrogant. Yeah. You're starting to get at my thesis statement, which is, yes, conflict is uncomfortable, but it's not the big bad boogeyman that we make it out to be, right? When we have conflict, we can become better people. We can have better ideas. We can be more collaborative. We can be more effective. It's sort of like this necessary evil to be better and do better in the world. And so it behooves us to do better at conflict, to have some strategies and approaches and mindsets in our back pocket. So we all have a lot of different relationships to conflict based on all sorts of things, right? The culture that we're brought in, our family of origin, even the geography. And how many of you have ever heard of West Michigan nice? Yeah, West Michigan nice. Is this like, I'm not going to really talk to you directly. I'm just going to beat around the bush and then maybe later on tell my friend in the parking lot what I really think about the meeting that I just had. That can be a little bit of West Michigan nice. And if that's not your culture, and you speak more directly and you speak more passionately, people from West Michigan nice culture can be like, why are you yelling at me? And person A is just like, I literally just said an honest, true thing, right? You can see where these conflicting cultural differences can get in the way. So for those of you who have a sense that you're not totally conflict adverse, do we have any of you in this room who you're like, doesn't seem like a big deal? Yes, Min. Can you tell us why you think that might even be? Have any sense for that?
Well, growing up as a twin, I feel like I was always the one getting into trouble or arguing. So I kind of, when you get used to it, it's almost like exposure therapy. You get used to it enough, you're not as scared of it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of an adrenaline rush. Getting into an argument with somebody or just saying your piece and
sort of shrink that. So it can be personality differences. It can be, yeah, just getting used to it. Yes, please.
I think it's because I grew up in a culture where people feel more inclined to be honest or argue issues directly
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
So if you've had that modeled for you, then it's just normalized, right? Absolutely, Lauren.
I think naturally I'm not conflict avoidant whatsoever, but I've spent most of my life in spaces where people think that I'm too blunt, they don't really want to hear the truth, or like when I was a student athlete, coaches don't really like being told when they're violating your human rights, so you know, I kind of
Yeah.
just being in spaces where it's not as appreciated or valued.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we all come at this pretty honestly, based on the past, 20 plus years of our lives. We've come to where we are. And so we're asking you to kind of expand your conflict repertoire for the good of yourself and the people you're working with and the good of the cause. So there's this model called the Thomas Kilmann model that really talks about 5 different styles of approaching and working through conflict. And it's based on 2 dimensions of behavior. The first one is assertiveness. So this is getting your own needs met, this kind of vertical, axes, getting your own needs met and advocating for your position. By the way, there are handouts there that you're welcome to avail yourself of them at any point if you're a note taker. And then the other axis of behavior is meeting the needs of the other person, focusing on the other person's position. And the 5 approaches to conflict that Thomas Kilmann has come up with really kind of get at finding yourself on these axes. So I'm going to go over each of these 5 approaches, and what I'd like you to do is figure out where do you most lean. I'm going to give you 5 options. None of them are right or wrong. In fact, they are all useful in their own time, in their own way, depending on the situation at hand, and depending on who you're in conflict with and what your relationship is like. But if you can figure out a little bit more, this is all leadership, right? You have a little bit more self-awareness, then that gives you some conscious choice of where do I want to pivot to when a conflict is at hand. So, the 5 approaches here. The first one is avoiding. This is when, represented by this blue circle, when you find yourself both being unassertive and uncooperative. Now, when you first hear avoidant, when I first heard avoidant, I was like, that doesn't seem very helpful or productive. That just seems like you're working out. But it can be useful if you're ever like, I just need to step away for a hot minute and like pull myself together. That can be a useful use of being avoidant. Or there might be just times when you're like, I'm just gonna pull out of this because it doesn't even seem productive or worth my time. This might be at Thanksgiving dinner when your uncle says something crazy and you're like, I'm just gonna let that lie, right? Like I'm just not even gonna go there. That's a healthy use of avoidance. That's a healthy use of avoidance. Next option is accommodating. This is when you are unassertive but cooperative. Unassertive but cooperative. This is when you are letting go of your own needs and desires to keep the peace, or because you don't really care about this particular conflict as much as maybe the person you're in conflict with, or maybe it's because you're valuing the relationship with this person more than your personal preference. You might find this at play when you're deciding with your partner or friends, like, where are we going to go to dinner tonight? Or you're working on a group presentation, of which you have so many, and you're just like, I just don't care so much in this particular situation how this lands. So I'm just going to accommodate for you and your preferences, or the group's preferences. Okay, our third option here, an approach, is competing. This is when you are very assertive and maybe not super cooperative. When you assert or make happen what you want or what you believe is correct, perhaps by yourself, and sometimes despite what others want. This is a little more Lone Ranger approach. So here's some examples. Maybe you're working in a lab or a healthcare setting, and you need to make a really quick decision about what you believe is right, and just go for it. Or how many of you are in student orgs or leading some student organizations? Yeah. There's times where there's simply not time to get every single person's point of view, and you just have to decide. Based on the knowledge that I have at hand, or maybe a quick poll, I'm going to go this direction, right? At the sounds of it, it doesn't sound like a competing mindset, but that would kind of fall under this. It's quick, it's decisive, or doing this thing. That's competing. So again, pay attention, where do you lean? Fourth option is collaborating. And this is assertive and cooperative. This is when you voice your needs and opinions, and you're really trying to understand other goals and perspectives in equal measures. This is about mutual goals and success. And this happens most often when you have more time. When you have more time. So, you're working on a prototype with a group, and you have more time to really think through what are the pros and the cons, and what are our goals, and how are we going to go after this. You have more time and energy to collaborate. Or maybe you're working with a student organization and you're planning for an event that's 2 months out. You have a lot more collaboration time, and it's really important in those kind of group settings to be doing that. The fifth one is compromising. This is one many of us are familiar with. This is moderate assertiveness and moderate cooperativeness. You give a little, you get a little, right? It's mutual, it's kind of this mutual giving and a little mutual getting. Maybe this is how an event you're leading is going to be run. Oftentimes policy decisions, we think about compromise. Politics are very often kind of this compromise piece of thing. You're not getting ideals, but you're giving and you're getting a little. Does everybody have a sense of where they might be? The 5. Okay. What I actually have for you, there's a really multicolored handout there. Looks like this guy. And this is a conflict management style assessment. True story. It's going to give you a virtual copy of this that was on the United States Institute for Peace website. And I went to it, and it was shut down by the government. So that's why we're not doing that digitally. But there is a document there for you to fill out this. It should take you about 6 or 8 minutes, but it should give you the directions on how to figure out what your conflict style is. So let us know if you have questions, raise your hand, or keep an eye out for us. Or you can come see us.
yeah, try to come to a considerate level. So, what?
Owl, so I was at work and like my sister, she's got a lot more sense of her.
All right. If you get done with, is this working? Okay. Quick announcement. If you get done, or when you get done, if you want to take on the bottom of this handout, there's 3 questions I'd like you to answer. My most common approach to conflict is, what is your intention with this approach? And what is the impact with this approach? So these 3 self-reflection questions, and then in a few minutes we will work ourselves around the room to talk about it. So self-reflect. Intent versus impact. I'll get a similar upbeat music for the next break. Get up around the room. No, you don't need to go to the back, just the front bottom. All right.
I don't know if it necessarily is what
Here's how I'd like you to move around the room. If you could like put your eyeballs up on the screen or on me for a minute.
Whichever you feel like you want to.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I want you to imagine that this room is this chart. So this is the assertiveness axis. From there, this is high, that's low. And that bottom wall is our cooperativeness axis. From low to high. Are you with me? Like if this room became that chart? Okay. What I'd like you to do is go to the spot in the room from the chart that where you lean most commonly. And then I would like you to talk to somebody else. So if you're an avoider, talk to other avoiders and talk about your self-reflection questions there. What's your intention here? What's the impact? And then in a few minutes we'll go to a different spot.
I know you guys.
questions for you here. What are some reasons you avoid this approach? What's missing if you don't use this approach? And what's the impact of not using this approach? So you check it out again. This is water. This is coming down there. And I'm very disappointed.
You guys are meeting today. Grace, who are you? Avoiding. I knew it. I'm not avoiding. You're not avoiding for collaborating, yeah. This is not where I lie. This is not I know. Yes, exactly.
Look at it.
So you recognize that that's recording, right?
Hi, Duncan.
It's like crossing.
Yeah. Just like a slight
Break
dump.
us into groups of 2s and 3s.
Incredible.
Oh my god. We were also no. Why would I like it's not productive. Are you also here and avoiding? What's the utility? You know?
I do it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not worth what I do all day.
If there's any value, then avoiding. If there's any value in the insert relationship here, then I'm not gonna avoid confrontation because that's how like things die. You know. What about you?
I don't know. I think it if it's like, I would avoid something if I feel like something I don't like. So,
Yep.
and I feel like I need to take time to see if I can I will avoid like this one time and reevaluate whether I should have that. And if I don't get it done,
I'll be fine.
you can think you're right, to be honest. I don't usually avoid those situations. That comes all the time.
Although I feel like the other end of the spectrum, like with accommodating, can sometimes be the same as avoiding too, because it's like you're making so many sacrifices on your own personal needs that like you're avoiding a conflict altogether and coming out with an outcome that doesn't truly serve anyone because your needs aren't being met. So like long term, it's never sustainable to like be overly agreeable because you're gonna come out on the bottom and come out with something, you know. Yeah. See, I'm the opposite when it comes to personal relationships like that. Like, I feel like I get more into the, like, compromise zone, and I increase, like, my assertiveness and my cooperativeness when it's a personal thing. Because I'm looking for longevity, you know?
Straight.
adaptive leadership. So part of the reason I want having you explore these different approaches to conflict is so that you can feel like you have some more tools at your tool belt, and also to recognize what your default pattern is. Because oftentimes we just live in one default mode, and we don't give it a lot of thought, or we do it before we realize what's happening. And so the idea here is for you to better understand your typical MO and then realize what options you have to be able to pause and then make a conscious choice about what type of way I want to lead in a certain circumstance. So I'm going to give you a few examples here of perhaps when each of these scenarios and types of approaches to conflict could be helpful. So, what style of conflict management would be best suited for urgent decisions or enforcing the rules? You can holler it out. Competing. You got it. Next one. What style of conflict would be best suited for preserving harmony or showing generosity? Yes. What style would be best suited for building relationships over time or solving complex problems? What style would be best suited for reducing tensions or when issues are trivial? What style would be best suited for reaching quick, fair solutions? You got it. All right. Would love for you to chat at your table for just a moment about what's jumping out at you so far, what have you discovered, and then kind of what questions, yeah buts, or wonderings do you have that you'd like to name or that you hope we do address in this next bit that we have together. So just kind of take stock of where we're at, what you've learned, where you feel like we're going, and you can chat about that for a few minutes at your table and we'll move on. you are willing to share what's jumping out at you, what's perhaps even a new discovery, or something you've been reminded of that you're like, ooh, I really gotta remember that. Lauren?
There's a healthy way to be in that competing side of conflict. I don't often get to the competing end of things, but when enough of my boundaries have been tested and pushed, I will get there. Doesn't mean I'm not going to be able to have a mature discussion about it, but I'm not going to be as collaborative or compromising as I'd normally be. For the assessment thing, I was even numbers for all of them. So I think it really just depends on the space that I'm in, but it really just depends on what the other person brings to the discussion. And then also just the topic that we're on, so it's very much it just depends on all the context involved.
Quite a few variables there.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think sometimes I can feel a little bit guilty about my leadership style because oftentimes I will have to make really tough decisions that impact people negatively. But it's also very few situations where that happens where it's just I'm forced to do that, or sometimes I'll be overly accommodating, where I'm just constantly trying to leave people out in case they they just can't meet certain responsibilities. But it was really cool to see how my top one was collaborating because that really makes sense for who I am and my experience. I've grown up with Hispanic parents who don't speak English, so I've always been kind of the facilitator within conflict. And now in that I've grown into different positions, I'm also a youth mentor for refugee children, so I'm always advocating for other people. So it feels really good that collaborating is something that that type of leader will need, and I am able to fulfill that. So
Absolutely. All these styles are needed. Absolutely.
Lauren and I talked about,
Can you guys all hear each other okay? Give me a microphone. I know you don't want the microphone. But yes.
we talked about when we were talking about which ones we don't see ourselves in as much, that the styles that we actually do, I'm not competing. And so I see myself doing that because as a child, I know my parents didn't want to get into any sort of conflict. And so I think my upbringing really influenced why that's my top one. And so that's what we talked about. I think that's just interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes our upbringing models for us what we want to do or what we default into, and other times we're don't want to do that. I'm going to go this direction. Other new discoveries or ahas? Yes.
This is gonna sound kind of like Machiavellian, but sometimes you gotta understand what battles are worth fighting. If you guys are already coming at it from a perspective where your needs and wants are close, there's no point in being over assertive. You can kind of be really compromising or even avoidant. Just trust people that it's gonna be okay. But there's certain times where you do have to pick those battles, and you do have to be more assertive because you might not have the time to compromise or definitely not to collaborate.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Very situational. Okay, next question. What questions, yeah, buts, or wonderings do you still have that you'd like to name or that you hope we address?
So I talked with my group about one question I have is how do you solve a conflict when the entire group is avoidant, and no one's telling you what the conflict is. I came from competing, so for me, I want to voice my issues so we can fix it as quickly as possible and move on. I don't like sitting in a passive-aggressive space where people are unhappy. And so for me, it doesn't make sense to me. Why wouldn't you want to share what was bothering you so that you could fix it? And if someone's not willing to share their problem, it almost feels to me if you're not willing to say you have a problem, then don't act like you have a problem. If you're not willing to say what it is, then you don't really want it solved. So I don't know how you fix or feel in that situation when people aren't willing to share what their issues are.
Absolutely. Anything come up for anybody about that? Answers, suggestions, ideas? Lauren?
I would say I partially agree with the statement of don't act like you have a problem if you're not going to bring it up, so long as the space has been accommodating enough. Not saying that you're not doing that in those spaces. Some of it is just people just aren't comfortable doing it. They need to practice it, but maybe just trying new ways to get people out of their comfort zone. So maybe I don't know, maybe there's something specific some other team bonding to get more comfortable with each other, maybe have more one-on-one sessions with people separately, just so that people feel more comfortable and safe. Because I think where a lot of it comes from is that people have never been able to safely voice what they think. It's been used against them. Usually that's the biggest thing, so just providing spaces where you're practicing that, being like, it's okay if you have an opinion, it's okay if you do what you want, your needs are honored. But it does just take time to develop that relationship.
Yeah, I appreciate the nod toward, does a person feel safe? Have I created a safe enough environment? And if not, and or either way, can I go to them one-on-one to talk about these things? Another thing you can do within a group setting is to say, what would the devil's advocate position be here? You know, here's my position, or one direction. What's the other side? What's another way of looking at it? What's three different ways of looking at this thing? And maybe then that invites, you know, another perspective there. Something else I can hear. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you could sometimes also, because I was in collaborating, that's like my top one. Sometimes I feel like when I'm in those situations, I'll like kind of push to like ask someone like, hey, what do you think? Or like,
Calm up.
yeah, like
What do you really think?
yeah, like just to hear someone's opinion, because sometimes they just don't really want to share
Yeah.
anything, but it kind of pushes for more of a solution
Yeah.
by like opening that line of communication.
Another tool you can do, depending on what the issue is, and it's like the answer can be written on a small piece of paper, but you could pose a question as a leader and have everybody write down their answer at the same time on a Post-it note or a small piece of paper, and then they literally have to like flip it and show it at the same time. That way you know that you're getting everybody's like knee-jerk reaction. Or you can have everybody write it down and then say, we're gonna go around the room and have every single person answer this. It's another way to get at it. So a few tips. Yeah, Rob.
I was gonna say, going back to what you were saying, I kind of been
Could you speak up just a wee bit?
sorry, y'all. Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me, bro? Okay. So I was about to say, agreeing back to what y'all two said, I can definitely relate to both sides. Like I've been had things used against me by like being vulnerable, and I also like mine is compromising. Like mine is really big on compromising because I feel like a lot of times when I do run into those issues and being the first one to speak up because I'm not really competitive at all, but I like to kind of avoid or kind of like address the issues because I want to solve it fast, just like that as well. So I kind of like always compromise and kind of ask a lot of questions or say or try to be vulnerable in a different way. So it's like instead of being like sometimes I can be aggressive a little bit. A lot of people say that about me. So I kind of go about it in a gentle manner of showing like this is who I am, this is how I feel about the situation, and it kind of inspire other people to be vulnerable back with me. So kind of like showing that open side of you, like you know I'm not trying to cause any issues or problems. Like stating that can kind of help you navigate those things without compromising too much and without you not saying your statement as well, because you shouldn't have to compromise so much. You know, just because they don't know how to do it, it's not always up to you or like on you to teach other people how to communicate in a way that, you know, it's easier for you. It's like kind of voicing like, I know you may not know how to do that, it's totally fine, but this is like where you start, you gotta have extra conversation. So teaching how to have that conversation with the people is really important. So I can understand both aspects because I've experienced, but.
Thank you. And I also want to name, especially if you come from a cultural perspective or personality where you tend to be more passive or accommodating, sometimes we think that being assertive is aggressive. Well, like if we're thinking about a continuum, we're like, oh, it's really aggressive when I'm domineering when I share my point of view. There's a difference between that and assertive. Like, assertive is in the middle here, right? So here's assertive, here's passive, down here is aggressive. Right? So don't think that just because you're being a direct communicator that makes you an aggressive person. It just means you can be assertive and speak kindly and truthfully and respectfully. So you're especially mindful for that. If you're really accommodating, you're really conflict averse, you're really scared to share how you feel. It's a healthy thing. Brene Brown says clear is kind, and that's what we're going for here. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, but I wonder, yep, Amy?
Yeah, so one of the things like in all the conversations is that we all have different conflict styles when it comes to like family or people we are close with, and then probably when it's like just in a professional setting. So, and a problem I think like an issue with family is that sometimes you don't know how to separate you from the issue.
Yes.
And so I don't know if like there's a way to separate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, how to separate you from the issue. So anytime you're using words like you always, you never goes very well, right? Because immediately your defenses are up and you're like, well, I can think of 3 times when I didn't do it that way, right? So being really careful about that. And when we're giving feedback to people, talking about very specific behaviors, as opposed to you are such a whatever, you know, like when you do this, it's a problem. So really honing in on those behaviors is really important. It's a really good thing. A couple other things I'll name here as well. Again, remembering cultural differences, especially many of you will be leading in different cultures, both in terms of globally, but the world is at our doorstep here. So even if you stay in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you will be working with people from all over the world potentially. So things to keep in mind very basically on, like in certain cultures, if I make eye contact with you, it is actually a sign of disrespect, right? As opposed to, why are you looking me in the eye, young man? You know, any of your parents ever said that? And another difference might be how people in authority are treated. In some cultures, you have utmost respect for people in authority, and you do not ever question them, wrong them, have a different opinion than them. And so you have to be really careful, especially in public settings, right? So if you're ever leading maybe a global group with somebody who is never ever, if you're in a position of authority, so to speak, even if you're not older, you know, never in a million years would that person perhaps correct you or have a devil's advocate idea or a different idea than yours. So you have to work really extra hard to pull that person aside and say, please, I need to know what you think. What are some other ways of looking at this problem? I need you to be very honest with you, and really paving the way to build trust and permission for that type of thing to happen. Cultural difference in terms of, are we making decisions based on the individual or the collective in the community? Those are going to be really different conflicting views as well. And also remembering power dynamics. We've talked about it here a little bit as well. But if you're a boss or you're in a senior leadership team, like your employees are going to feel maybe the safest right off the bat having conflict with you. You have to pay attention to that and create spaces where they feel like they can be heard. Likewise, if you're in the minority in any way, shape, or form in a group, you might be less likely to speak up and to share your mind because it might not feel emotionally safe or physically safe, or you just feel like, no one's going to really agree with me, so I'm just going to accommodate and keep that to myself. And so paying attention to that. This is also a reason why if you are in a position of power for any reason, you need to be really careful to get as much feedback and perspectives and have as much representation at the table as you can on the outset. That will help you solve some good problems. So, any other final comments on that? Awesome. Well, let's see here. Let me look at the time. How are we doing? Do we need like a 5-minute break? Would this be useful? Yes. Why don't you grab a 5-minute break if you go bathroom, you can grab a snack, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes.